We're going to go ahead and delay just a couple minutes and let folks a little more time to join in, and then we'll get started. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started here. I know people will probably join over the next few minutes, but we won't hold this up. First of all, for those of you watching this that may not know me, if you don't know me, I'm Colonel David Mollahan. I'm the 16th president here at MMI. I got here back in the 1st of August in 2009, so I've been here just a bit over 11 years now. And I want to welcome you all to this brief presentation. What I wanted to do was really kind of get everybody now in the mindset that we really are about to start the fall semester 2020 here at Marion Military Institute. And what I want to do is kind of give an overview of some things that we've been working on, elements of our plan and the planning that we've been doing, and some expectations, things to think about, things to be prepared for. When I'm done, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. David Ivey, who's going to talk some about how academics is going to be run. And then Colonel Ed Passmore, who's the the Senior Vice President and our Commandant of Cadets, is going to go over some items of interest to you specifically that have to do with moving day, for example, or some questions that or some commonly asked questions that he's going to address. And if you happen to have any questions along the way, you'll have an opportunity to do that. On your screen, you should have a Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, and all you have to do is click on that icon. You'll have a screen that comes up. You can type your question, and we have somebody monitoring that. And if it asks something either I can answer, or David Ivey can answer, or Colonel Passmore, I also have the athletic director here as well in case there's something about athletics, and she's available to answer. We'll try to answer your questions as best as we can as we go along. So that's kind of how we'll do this. The first thing I want to comment on is the fact that we are in the middle of a administrative system transition, believe it or not. The system that we're a part of, the Alabama Community College system, has been working on a common administrative system for some time. And we finally gotten the funding over the last few years. And all the colleges, and there are 24 of us in our system, are coming together and transitioning to this new system. It's called Manor. Now, when this plan came up and the milestones were established for this transition, of course, nobody heard of COVID. So no one could anticipate what we're dealing with right now, but the milestones are what they are, and we have to stay with them. And so sometimes you're getting conflicting information about financial aid or registration or something like that. If you've dealt with those things, please understand that's not something we're creating. We're kind of on the receiving end of some of this, just as you are. So just be patient with us. We have to continue to work with this transition at the same time we're getting everybody accounted for on campus. So I wanted to make you aware of what was going on, and it has to do with transition to a common administrative system. Okay, so let me review where we've come from. Just before spring break last March, we could see the handwriting on the wall. I know I could. I think most people could see what was coming. We told all the cadets at that time, just before spring break, to anticipate not coming back immediately after spring break. We told them to make sure that when they left, take things with them in case they didn't come back at all. And we were starting to prepare for the possibility that might happen. In fact, we were hoping that maybe we could just delay it a week or so, and our plan included a phase back of our cadets. But it became pretty clear within about a few days of even that idea that there was no way we were bringing everybody back on campus after spring break. And so we immediately shifted from a full on-campus academic delivery and educational approach to a completely online, remote, virtual delivery. And I will tell you, it was an enormously challenging thing. And I'm just so proud of our faculty and staff, because it affects not only the faculty, but it also our administrative staff, on how quickly we were able to make that adjustment. It really said something about the professionalism of our campus community here. But equally so was how impressed I was with our cadets and how quickly they adapted to this as well. It wasn't easy for them, we know that. It took some adapting for them, but they managed to get themselves into that environment after having spent, almost most of the year here on campus, suddenly having to take all these classes online and through remote learning. So everybody did an extraordinary job to switch to that virtual environment literally within 10 days, but that's where we were. We spent the remainder of that academic semester starting to think ahead to the fall. How are we going to do this in the fall? Of course, we had no idea what the fall was going to look like. We had no idea we'd be where we are right now, to be perfectly honest. And so we started thinking about, though, if it is like that, how are we going to do this? One of the things we put into place was a call campaign to keep in contact with the cadets at home. They were maintaining contact with their TAC officers and with their faculty, but we also had some members of our staff just make how goes it calls. How are you doing? How are things in your part of the country? And are you having any problems or issues? And that went really well. In fact, one of the things that we found was very interesting is the overwhelming feedback we got from the cadets is the fact that they missed being on campus. How much they did not really care for this online remote thing. They really wanted to be back in the classroom. They wanted to be with their friends. They wanted to be with their company mates. They wanted to be back on campus. And I mention that because this will come up again, that we don't want to have to do that again. We don't want to have to do that. And trust me, if you haven't had to deal with this, for those of you that may be watching, you will find out pretty quickly that that's not the most ideal way to be doing this. It's better than nothing at all. But if we can avoid that, we really want to try to do that. And that's just feedback we got from the returning cadets, and they said it. I've seen several of them already, and they've said, boy, we don't want to have to do that again. So just keep that in mind as we move forward here. Anyway, so as we look forward to the fall, we started to put together a plan. We continued to make adjustments based on changes we were getting from public health experts, both at the federal level and at the state level, and really looked at how we would conduct operations on campus. The one point that I will make right up front is we have a very strong plan in place. But for it to be successful, it's really going to require everybody to be a part of that plan and to participate in that plan and to follow the rules and the regulations and so forth. Any of you out there that are military, that have done any tactical, operational, or strategic planning know that the plan really is only as good as the people executing it. And so we really need to keep in mind that if we're going to make this all the way to Thanksgiving, which is our aim point, because at Thanksgiving we're intending to be complete, if we're going to make it there, we really need everybody to follow this plan. And it's a very well laid out and thought out plan with a lot of details, but it can be done. Now, let me talk about a couple of key facts upon which our plan is based. And hopefully this doesn't sound like news to anybody, and hopefully I'm preaching to the choir here. But the first fact is this, and facts are always so important. COVID is not the flu. It's simply not the flu. It looks like the flu in a lot of ways, but there's things that COVID is that flu is not. So that's the first thing to understand. We're dealing with something that is in fact different. But some of the symptoms are similar. The most common symptom that we see, this is a fact, about 87% of those who have tested positive and have a symptom have a fever of some kind. That's the most common. That's not the only one, but that's the most common. The other ones include things like aches, pains, chills, sore throat, runny nose, congestion, loss of taste or smell, or things like that. And there's only so many of the things we can monitor, but we can certainly monitor temperature, and we can look for things like runny noses and so forth. And that's part of the plan, is to think about medically how we monitor what's going on with each cadet. As many as 40% of those who carry the virus are asymptomatic. They have no symptoms. What that means is they can be carrying the virus, don't realize they have it, and if they aren't doing mitigation things, can inadvertently pass it on to somebody else. And so we have to account for the fact that yes, some people can be asymptomatic. The primary way in which this virus is transmitted, it's not the only way, but the primary way is through the expulsion of respiratory droplets that come from a person's nose or mouth. When they're talking, singing, laughing, yelling, sneezing, coughing, the virus rides on the droplets and the droplets go forth, and if you're close enough and anywhere near somebody and you can inhale it, you can become infected. which is why distance is so important, because the droplets tend to go so far and they tend to sink because of gravity. And the louder you talk, the more you sing, the more you yell, the further they go, and so on and so forth. So distance is very important. That's a known fact. The secondary way in which it can be transmitted is somebody touching an object that has the virus on it, a contact, and then taking that hand and rubbing their eyes and their face and their nose and their mouth and getting it through that method. That's not as common, but it's still an important way in which it can be transmitted, which is why hand hygiene is so important. That is another fact. Face coverings work. Data has shown it. Laboratory research has proven it. Common sense would seem to tell somebody that if you don't want respiratory droplets to get out and about, put something over your face and that will stop it. And yes, that's true. They now know, through their consensus now is, not only does it help stop the virus from getting out if someone happens to have it, but if the wearer is using it, it can also help that virus from getting in. So 2 barriers is much better than 1 between 2 people. And if you add distance in there, that's even better. So face mask wearing works, distance wearing works. Add them together and you really can dramatically reduce the risk of transmission. And then you add in hand hygiene and you've really got the 3 things you really need to be doing. So outdoors is better than indoors, but it doesn't relieve the requirement to wear face masks or face coverings. But it is better than indoors, and to the extent that we can simulate indoors, I mean, we can't obviously be outdoors all the time, but we can simulate it. That part of our plan accounts for that. There is no cure, there is no vaccine yet. Now there is one in particular, one therapeutic that is proven to be effective to some degree, and that's called remdesivir, which can reduce the hospital stays by up to 30%. That has been approved, but it doesn't destroy it entirely. It's not a cure. There's one other medication that's used really to deal with a symptom of the disease. It's called dexamethasone, which is a steroid. It's an anti-inflammatory to help with inflammation that occurs. But that's really all we have in terms of therapeutics. And of course, they're making incredible speed or incredible progress at incredible speed with regard to vaccines, but we're not there yet. The best projection right now, the most optimistic, is a vaccine will in fact be identified by the end of this year. But then you have the issue of distribution and getting it out there and getting people vaccinated and so forth. That'll take a bit more time. So the only protection we have right now really is through mitigation measures to reduce and eliminate the opportunity for transmission. And that is what our plan is basically based on, is reducing transmission risk as much as possible. So face coverings will be required at all times, indoors, outdoors, and there's some exceptions, and I won't go into all those exceptions, but by and large, be ready to have a face covering in at all times, except if you're in your room, and in the case of our faculty or staff, if they're in their offices by themselves, they can relax it then. But otherwise, face coverings are on all the time. We want distance to always be honored at all times, even with face coverings, because those 2 working together are important in reducing risk. That's part of what our plan lays out. Our plan accounts for creating distance effects by the way we've organized classrooms and indoor spaces to allow for spacing. We continue to reinforce hand hygiene, and we've got a number of things in place all around the campus to allow everyone an opportunity to at least hand sanitize, use hand sanitizer for their hands. Of course, the most effective way to take care of the hands is through washing with soap and water for 20 seconds. That's kind of the standard. We want to try to create an outdoor effect as much as we can with indoor spaces. So classrooms will have fans and doors open, some other things, and I think David Ivey's going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to monitor for those symptoms. We have surveillance testing that we intend to conduct, and we have plans for isolation and quarantine for those that may be suspect or actually show symptoms or actually come up positive. We do not plan on keeping everybody on campus until Thanksgiving. I know we've heard that. That's not the plan, but we do plan on keeping everybody in place through a quarantine period that runs up through Labor Day. That's just common sense. That's the right thing to do. We can get a feel for our status at that point. We can see how well everybody is starting to adapt to wearing masks and distancing and all these sorts of things. And so that's what we need to do, and that's what we plan to do. So just be ready for that. Then we'll reassess the risks and what's happening beyond the campus here, what's happening in the local area, within the state, and so forth, and how everybody is doing. But But the reality is, one thing we will be able to see is how well is everybody doing their part. And that will be part of the decision we make. Do we need to extend any of this any further than just Labor Day? But the expectation is that we hope not to have to do that. But the bottom line is our decisions are based on two things: health and safety. Health and safety is are the two things that we're going to make our decisions based upon. We've had a number of requirements, a number of things that we need: sanitizing, disinfecting, thermal cameras, temperature check capabilities, medical surveillance capabilities, and on and on and on. Things that we don't normally have to account for in our budget. We've gotten resources from the federal government through the CARES Act. We just recently completed a successful fundraising effort. We actually started a fundraiser right at the end of June and reached out to all of our supporters and said, hey, we're trying to raise $100,000 in the month of July, and that money is going to go towards these things that we need to put onto campus. The latest output we have is $111,000 is what we've achieved, so we actually beat the goal we had of $100,000. We raised that in just a bit over 4 weeks. Now, I mention that because there's a lot of effort, not just a lot of effort, but a lot of resources, including donors who come forward to help make this campus as safe as possible. So it's important for all of us to appreciate that and do our part to do the things necessary to keep each other safe by following our plan. We want to create an environment here in which we can be as successful as possible while being as safe as possible. That's the entire idea. Okay, this will be a challenge. There's no way around it. It's different way to have to conduct business than what we're accustomed to, but it can be done. And we intend to do it, and we will need everybody's help to do that. I've talked with the faculty and staff already about the need for the entire campus community to come together and do everything we're supposed to do. Next in our community is coming to us are the cadets, and you all need to be doing the same thing. So my appeal to you right now is to be prepared, be mentally prepared, be ready to do all the things necessary, to follow the rules and regulations. I hope that you are doing that at home right now. You're reducing any risk of being exposed to something by following those mitigation requirements that most states, just about every state, there's a few exceptions, have. And if they don't have it, ignore that and do the right thing. Wear your mask, social distancing. And we need you to come to campus in as safe a way as possible. So I hope that you're all doing that, and I ask that you do that. But it will be challenging. It'll be inconvenient. There's times it will be a bit uncomfortable. That's okay. It's a bit of a sacrifice. You may want to look at it this way. You know, you've heard this phrase, the greatest generation. The preponderance of that generation were young people, not much older than you all here, you all that may be watching this right now coming to campus. You know, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old. They are the greatest generation. They won World War II. You get to be the next greatest generation. Help us win this next war, the war against COVID virus. And the way we do that is being responsible and helping us drive the transmission rate down to 0 and be the next greatest generation. That's my call for you to do. So we look forward to seeing you all soon. Remember 3 things. If you can't remember anything else, remember these 3 things, these 3 W's. Wear your mask, watch your distance, wash your hands, and all together do your part. If we do that, we will make it to Thanksgiving. We'll make it there safely. We'll complete this academic semester on campus. And I think that's the way you want to do it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Chief Academic Officer, Mr. David Ivey. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Colonel Mollahan. For those of you who do not know me, my name is David Ivey. I'm the Chief Academic Officer here at Marion. I've been at Marion as an employee for over 25 years. I'm also a graduate of the 1990 junior college class. So it's not my first rodeo to Marion, but it's my first rodeo for the coronavirus. So here we go. From the world of academics, I want to welcome you to Marion and hope we can help you when you need that extra little boost incentive from the academic world. So we spent the summer preparing for face-to-face classes. We came up with a good schedule. The administration got together and tried to come up with the best plan to help satisfy the academic needs as well as the state requirements that are required for contact hours. So I want to go over 6 areas today, this afternoon, which will begin with the classroom protocols. Instructors and cadets, as you've heard from Colonel Mollahan, will all be masked when they're in their classrooms. Instructors have set up their classrooms to meet state distancing requirements. The occupancy for each classroom will be posted on the door, so there will be no question on how many are allowed in a class at a time. There will be mounted hand sanitizers at the back of each classroom, and cadets will be required to sanitize their hands at the beginning of class as well at the end of class. Where feasible, instructors will open doors and windows to allow for outside air circulation, which we've read and we've seen articles on that really helps reduce the transmission of the virus. All instructors will use a hybrid approach this fall that will incorporate face-to-face learning as well as online learning that will reduce the amount of face-to-face time in the classroom. Some instructors will conduct classes outdoors to allow for the fresh air venue. We have several areas around campus that we've identified for outdoor classroom locations. But just remember, masking will still be required, as you've heard, when you're outside. Due to some instructors falling into the high-risk status, their classes will be offered in a virtual format, and those instructors will be reaching out to you so you'll be aware which of those classes fall into that category. Those classes will likely be synchronous or asynchronous, so they'll be either a mixture of the two or one or the other. Instructors and advisors will be available for office hours, but also realize this, because of face-to-face restrictions, the number of hours of face-to-face office time will be reduced, but we will offer virtual office hours to help solve and reduce those problems. So as you've heard, we're going to finish by November the 24th. We've developed an abbreviated schedule that allows us to be completed by November the 24th. This will allow us to finish early, and we've created a schedule that incorporates a few double-up days that will be on Monday afternoons. On the Mondays that will have double-up days, the morning schedule will be the same, no changes in times, but the afternoon schedules will be abbreviated, and we're looking at 50-minute class times for the afternoons on those certain Mondays. And they won't be every Monday, but we'll have about 7 Mondays that we'll have to do double-up days. Final exams are scheduled for Saturday, November the 21st, Monday, November the 23rd, and Tuesday, November the 24th. Just realize that we will not give exams early, so make sure you're looking at the schedule when you make your plans to return home, because there's so many pieces to the puzzle right now with instructors having to do some virtual, some in the class, and so having the opportunity to have exams given early will not be an option. As you've heard several times, we've transitioned to a new system, and you've heard it called Banner, and you're going to hear it many times this semester. It does cause a few challenges, and it causes challenges on the academic side of the house as well. Right now, most of the ECP and LEP students that completed a pre-registration schedule have already been put into the system. The SAP students that we've had those rosters in have already been put in a schedule based on the academy requirements. So those schedules are in place, as well as, like I said, the ECP and LEP students. Some schedules, due to the problems of late additions, will have to be completed once you return or arrive to campus next week. New students will meet with their advisors toward the middle of next week, and by the end of next week, we hope to have most of the schedules in place, but any changes in the schedules will be done the first week or the week of drop and add. And so you'll get some more information on that when you report to campus next week. As you've heard before, the word academic quarantine, sometimes students will give us a heads up on that they may be they may test positive before they come. In those situations, what we'll do is we'll work with those students. We have a video that actually describes login information, how to contact your instructor, the information you need to follow as far as the academic side of the house if you're quarantined and you have to arrive late. Those that test positive when they're here, and we hope those numbers are really low, and hopefully they'll be non-existent, but if that does happen, they'll follow the same protocols if we have to send a student home that has a flu or that has a fairly serious ailment, and they will work with the instructors individually through a virtual process. The Academic Success Center, which is our tutoring program and our resource center for academics, the first 3 weeks or until Labor Day weekend, they will use a virtual approach to try to practice the social distancing because those locations and areas are very small. So that will be completely a virtual approach. The tutors will be on campus. The tutors will be in the Academic Success Center, but they'll handle that through a virtual approach. And they will be able to provide online tutoring, academic resources, and other needed academic support. The Mmi Library will be open for normal business hours, but just realize that computers will be stationed at 6-foot requirements, as well as other requirements will be in place to help minimize close contact. Just remember, in closing, the measurements that we have in place are very important to your well-being. They will not only protect you, but they will also protect our faculty and staff. Thank you for your flexibility in these difficult times, and I look forward to meeting all of you next week when you report to campus. I appreciate your time, and I'll now turn it over to Colonel Passmore.
All right, thank you, Dean Ivey. Again, for anyone who don't know me, my name is Colonel Ed Passmore. I've been here now going on 5 years. I'm the Commandant of Cadets and the Senior Vice President. As Commandant of Cadets, I oversee all cadet activities on campus outside of the athletic department and the academic department. Therefore, I'd just like to cover some topics here that have been frequently asked questions. This is not an all-inclusive list, of course, but I'll put this out, and then, of course, you're free to answer questions online that will be relayed up here, and we'll answer them for you. Before I get into this, I'd just like to echo Colonel Mollahan's remarks. We have been planning for face-to-face instruction on campus for quite some time now. We have a very good plan in place. No plan is executed unless the team is good, and so it has to be executed well to be successful. However, I'm very excited about the incoming leadership team with our cadets. We have the cadets who came to us from our shortened semester last semester, and they're very eager to get on campus and complete an on-campus experience here. And they're motivated to do so. And we have quite some talent there. So I'm extremely excited to work with them and have them help us get this Corps of Cadets through to the 24th of November and finish this semester successfully. For those of you who are looking at coming in next week, which is the vast majority of you, prior to your move-in, we need to make sure that you've completed all your tasks to your in-processing forms, etc., online, especially your health surveys, and to get those in so that we can clear you to come in. That includes your guests. For move-in days themselves, which start next Monday, and again, if you're not sure about what day you should be coming, please check our website, and you will be able to see what day corresponds to your program, and in the case of Monday and Tuesday for our LEP and ECP cadets, the first letter of your last name determines Monday or Tuesday. So for move-in days, and what we call that week, of course, we're going to ask you to renew or update your health survey 24 hours before you arrive here. I know most of you have already put them in, as we asked, about a couple weeks out. That's to allow us to work through any issues that might have already presented themselves. But that last 24-hour one is also key in case any symptoms have developed in the interim time. For the parents, when you get on campus, it's going to be a very quick process, relatively speaking, in that we've really shortened down the requirements that we have to do up front in order to make this as an expeditious experience as possible. So parents, when you come here, we'll be bringing you through with your cadet. However, we are going to ask you to abide by the schedule, which indicates that at 12 noon, actually 11:45, your cadet will be out in front of the chapel ready to be marched off to lunch. At the conclusion of that march off, that's the conclusion of move-in days for our parents as well. We are going to offer an optional question and answer period here in the chapel at noontime after the march off for any parents who wish to stay and have any questions for us. Again, I remind everybody coming in, parents and cadets alike, you need to bring your own face covering to come in and do your in-processing. And you need to exercise social distancing. We will set up our venues to allow you to do that in an easy way. Okay, so we ask for your collaboration and cooperation in doing that. Testing. Currently our policy right now is to test all cadets when they arrive to campus. And to do that, we have been working with the University of Alabama, Birmingham and their system for the state. However, our school is the first one out of the chute with opening up school and bringing in our students. Therefore, the system is working. We have tested all the students who have come to campus so far. We look forward to continuing to do that. During move-in week, we are being supported by on-site testing by the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And more information will be coming out to our cadets, giving you information on how to register for that test. So when you get here, you can go right to the testing station and get tested and finish that requirement. So again, for move-in days, please look at the calendar. Please come in early in the morning, as early in that time period as possible. Remembering, please, 11:45, all these new recruits need to be out in front of the chapel, ready to go to lunch and get started with their MMI experience. In regards to testing, in addition to this initial test that we're trying to screen all the cadets as they arrive to campus, we are also participating in something called the Sentinel Program. This is also run by the University of Alabama, Birmingham. This program envisions that we will test 4 to 5% of our Corps of Cadets every week. And this is a surveillance measure to try to pick up anybody who might be carrying the virus but asymptomatic. In addition, we are also be conducting daily health checks with all of our cadets. What this is going to be, and all of our cadets, also the recruits coming in, you're going to start receiving this text starting on Wednesday, about 6:45 in the morning. Your phone will have a text go to it that'll say, MMI requests that you fill out this health survey. I would like you to do that. Get in practice before you come. It's a very simple survey, just a few questions. It'll take you probably about a minute to complete. When you click submit or send, it will either give you a green screen, meaning that you're good to go for that day, or it's going to say the nurse will contact you. And if it does say the nurse will contact you, our nurse will eventually get around to calling you, depending upon how many people she needs to talk to that morning. Now, all that is going to be is to clear up what the question may be on the survey. So please don't get too excited if it says that. Talk to the nurse, tell her what you answered, and work with her on that. But again, this is going to be something the cadets have to get used to because they'll be doing it every morning while they're here. When they get up before they start their daily activities, they need to answer that survey, come up with their green screen so they can go on with their activities. If they don't have a green screen, then the appropriate people here on staff will be contacting them to work through that issue, whatever it may be. And that's something called My Healthy Roster. But again, right now, for all of our cadets, it's just going to be, you're going to be receiving a text daily in the morning, and we ask you to complete that survey. Also part of our daily checks, we will be checking all the cadets at least twice a day for temperature. We do this through 2 ways. One is we have thermal cameras in 2 places on campus. The primary one is going to be in our dining facility, and that monitors all the cadets as they leave the dining facility upon the conclusion of their meal. These cameras are very sensitive, and they will pick up anybody running temperature. That camera will then notify us, appropriate staff members here, of that cadet and that temperature, and then we will follow up with that cadet to see if there's an issue. Additionally, all of our tactical officers have touchless thermometers so that they can double check or spot check cadets as needed. And then last option for health, I'd like to just describe for you real quickly. It's a new capability that really became possible through donations by the folks who just donated the money that Colonel Mollahan was talking about to help us with these systems, is a telehealth option. So right now we have 2 nurses on campus. One of them will be a telehealth nurse, and that she will be available 24/7 for our cadets, and our cadets can even contact her from their rooms. They don't even have to leave their rooms to contact her and have her do an assessment. We'll also have a telehealth kiosk located in our guardhouse. Will be accessible 24/7 in case we need to have that cadet come down and give some vital signs, which that kiosk will have the capability of doing. So that's an exciting new option or capability we have on campus that will certainly help us out quite a bit now for this period, but also into the future. So into questions. Frequent question we have is, what if we have a cadet who comes down with symptoms? And in our daily checks, we will catch that very early. So if a cadet does come down with symptoms, we follow our normal flu protocol, which is that normally if they are capable of doing so in a safe and healthy manner, we send them home, and then they can recover at home under the care of their own attending medical capability. In this case, also before we send them home, we will take a test here, and then that test results, when that comes back, we will contact that cadet if they're at home, inform them of those results, and then we'll take it from there, depending upon what those results are. If we have cadets who cannot go home, we have established a couple of quarantine facilities here on campus that will handle that. So those cadets will be segregated from the rest of the campus into these facilities. They will continue to follow their courses online, so they will not fall behind, as do the ones, or as will the ones who go home. They will be provided their food. They'll be checked on by the nurse at least twice a day, etc., until such time as we can clear them to come back into the campus community. Another question comes, what if a cadet does not want to follow these mitigation rules, mitigation procedures? Well, as has been stated previously and seems to be pretty much common sense, for these things to work, we need everybody to be compliant. If we have cadets for whatever reason who wish not to be compliant, of course, we will work with them to try to get them to change their ways. If, however, they insist on non-compliance, we will have no other recourse than to send them home. We don't want to get to that part. I hope we don't. But we cannot have people in this population who do not comply with these basic common sense rules. Next question. When can I visit my cadet? As Colonel Mollahan mentioned, it's hard to give a date certain right now. We have no intention of keeping our cadets locked down on campus until Thanksgiving. That's kind of counterproductive. Same goes for having visitors. However, we have to make sure that the conditions warrant, or the conditions favor us doing that in a safe, secure, and healthy way. And so, as Colonel Mollahan mentioned, Labor Day is kind of our mark on the wall right now. It's the completion of our ITC cycle, where all of our recruits were confined to campus anyways, even under normal times. But that's going to be our mark to get together, see what the conditions are both on campus, in the local community, and in the wider community that our cadets normally frequent. It is our intention, if we can do it safely, to start relaxing those restrictions to campus at that time if the conditions warrant. And that also includes visitation, etc. We will be in contact, or we will be putting this information out to the community, to the parents, as we can, and informing you so you can make your own plans accordingly. Next question, when can cadets leave campus? So the segue to this one is, what if I have a family emergency and my cadet has to come home? Well, we understand that, but just keep in mind when making those plans that if a cadet leaves campus for an emergency and they go home, that stay is going to have to be at least 2 weeks at home, and then they're going to have to get a negative test before they return to campus, so that they can be cleared and we are comfortable that they are in a healthy state to return into this community. And then lastly, I just want to touch upon, can I bring my own face covering? All cadets will be issued 4 of these gaiters, as I'm wearing right now. And the reason we picked these gaiters is they're very simple to use, easy to wash, they're durable. The cadet can't really lose it being around their necks. When they're out doing PT, they can drop it down. They don't have to carry it, put it in their pocket. They can just drop it down around their neck, and when they need to, they pull it back up. They'll be issued 4, which will allow them to keep one clean at all times, at least. So this should be sufficient for any cadet to get through this semester with appropriate face covering on campus. However, face coverings are becoming sort of a fashion statement, and there are many different varieties. So if, the bottom line for our cadets really is we want them to comply with the face covering, social distancing, and the hygiene requirements. If they feel more comfortable in a different style of face covering, that's fine. We want them to be comfortable in it. However, it needs to meet the minimum standards. It needs to meet you look at the CDC website about the type of fabric that's used. The close woven cotton blend is best. More than one layer is better, etc. But then you want to look at also, for us, color. So if you're bringing your own face covering, look at those requirements, and then also look at the fact that we want any face coverings to be a solid color. So a solid black color or solid brown color or green color. Obviously, we want it to try to conform to our uniforms. If it is going to be a camouflage type color, it needs to be the same one as his OCP. We really don't want colors like white because they get very dirty very quickly, stained, etc. And that's not very conducive to what we want. The last thing I'd say, well, two more points on face coverings. One is that if you have a face covering that has vents, these are not conducive to what the face covering is designed for, and either have one without vents. If they have vents, they need to be disabled, and we will verify that. And also just keep in mind the way that these face coverings are attached to you. Make sure that your cadet is comfortable with that, because they're going to have to keep these face masks close to their skin. It can't be loosely around their face, and some of these types of fasteners do not allow you to do that very close to your face. If there's any questions about the face coverings, our tactical officers or your cadets company, they are the ones who will be inspecting these face coverings that are brought from home and approving them for use. If your cadet has a medical reason that has to do anything with wearing face coverings, we need to get some indication of that from a doctor that's sent to our nurse, and so she can review it to determine what we'll do with that issue. All right, so that's face coverings. I don't want to monopolize any more time because we want to open it up now to questions and answers. I'm going to stay up here. We're going to have the questions read off to us, and the appropriate person will come up here and answer your question. So I'd ask Sergeant Major Jones to give us our first question.
Sir, will band proceed as usual, as well as fire college, etc.? Fire college and other clubs, sir.
Okay. Will band, fire college, and other clubs proceed as normal? Yes, provided certain, social distancing, etc. We will do that. But all of our clubs and activities will operate within this environment. And I see no reason why we should not do that. The band director is working on different mitigation measures right now for his band. He's also going to run chorus. And so I'm sure we'll have that up and operational for the semester.
Just re-emphasize, if one student tests positive, what are the measures for that class?
All right, if one of the students tests positive, what are the measures for that class? That assumes that we're going to have an issue in a classroom. Our concern right now is if a student tests positive, the next thing we do for tracing, we determine who is a close contact. And close contact has a specific definition. It has a couple elements. The first element is that that person has been within that proximity of that person within 6 feet without face covering for 15 minutes or longer. Just remember, in our classrooms, students are going to have their face covering on all the time. They're going to be 6 feet or more apart. So that really sort of indicates to us, although we will monitor them, that they are not as high a concern. Our biggest concern will be roommates and close associates, let's call them. if we have boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. For close contacts that we can determine that fit that criteria, they will also have to be put into quarantine for 14 days. That is a state mandate and the CDC mandate. So let me just talk about that protocol. If we have a cadet who comes up positive for the coronavirus, currently the state protocol and the CDC protocol is that that person needs to go into quarantine for 10 days. Then they have, from the time of the test or the onset of symptoms, at the end of that 10-day period, they have to have at least 24 hours fever-free without the use of fever-reducing medications and a lessening of symptoms. 10 days, fever-free, lessening of symptoms. For a close contact, because it cannot be determined exactly when that close contact may, if they have, picked up the virus, their quarantine is for 2 weeks, 14 days. At the end of that 14 days, we will ask them to get a negative test before returning back to campus. The negative test, a test cannot shorten the 14 days. And again, that's by the CDC and the state rule. So again, positive 10 days, fever, lessening of symptoms, no need for a follow-on test. Close contact, 14 days, negative test, return to campus. And of course, all this time, if they are at home during this time recovering, they will be keeping up with their academic side through their instructors online.
Will parents be allowed to assist cadets moving in items into their dorm room?
Okay, thank you for that. We're putting out the information that we are asking parents to not enter the barracks. Now, you may ask why. Oh, I have a mask, etc. I want to go help my son or daughter move into their barracks room. We already have, and we will have at the time of move-in, well over almost half of our cadets on campus because they came in earlier for other programs like ROTC. So we don't want outside people coming into the barracks to places that we've already tested all these students. And we want to try to keep those populations as distant as possible. So we ask you to collaborate, cooperate with us in observing that and understanding why we were asking you to stay out during the moving process. Not something we like to do, but it's something we feel we need to do.
Is the cadet portal/banner currently open or updated? It did not appear that there was a sign-in option on the Marion website.
AJ, would you flip over to? Thank you for that question. We're talking about the banner portal, et cetera. And so as soon as we get the website put up here, scroll. No, and that's, oh, I see, okay. No, I don't have an option for the website. All right, thank you for that question. On your screen right now, you see the current MMI main web page. I scroll down, and I would like you, for the banner system, the one that Colonel Mollahan mentioned, that's the new system that we're doing right now. You'll see right here, students click here for my MMI portal 1 ACCS. Click on that. And it's going to take us to that specific web page, and down, and you'll see here, students click here to register. You go to this page, and in here, you're going to see frequently asked questions. So you can click on this link, and there's a listing of instructions here for you if you're having issues, okay? And then it talks about that you can contact the department for additional assistance if you need it. Okay. AJ, how do I get back to? Okay, it's underneath the. All right, so that's for the banner system that we're talking about. All students need to register in banner and follow the instructions. The other thing I'd like to point out to any cadets who've not already done so is all the in-processing information. If you go under admissions, you go down the menu items to accepted students, and then go over to important in-processing information and click on that link. It gives you the dates for move-in, the categories of the programs that are there. It tells you about what you need to know. When you go down here, you have buttons that you can press for just about anything that you need to do. Now, there's several forms, et cetera, that you need to fill out on here. So I would invite you all to click on every single button just to make sure that you get everything you need. Some are optional and some are not. Okay, so please go through this and finish your in-processing before you come to school. Another question?
Is it best to order books now or wait until we arrive?
We're gonna, Dean Ivy says to wait till you arrive. Part of that's due to the fact that not all class schedules have been built yet. And so we want to make sure that you have your right class schedule before you purchase books.
How are you going to handle shopping in the bookstore for textbooks and classroom needs?
All right, of course, cadets will be doing that, and we will be taking them down there in small groups that are going to be managed to keep their social distancing and face covering requirements in place.
I do have a concern about disinfecting protocols. Chemical pollution can be toxic and can be harmful. What chemical sanitizers are being used? There are hydrogen peroxide solutions which do not cause lung issues like Lysol.
Unfortunately, I don't have the specific type of disinfectant we're getting. We check the FDA, CDC sites all the time to make sure that we are not using harmful products. I'll get with our buildings and grounds and we'll find out what type of products we're using.
Could you just please clarify requiring COVID testing prior to arrival or on campus at arrival?
No, we're going to be testing cadets as they arrive on campus. So next week when you come for move-in week, your first station is going to be with the COVID testing station that is being run by University of Alabama, Birmingham for us in support of our movement.
Will there be a summary of this meeting?
Yes, we're recording this town hall meeting, and that will be put out on the web after our conclusion.
Is there anything being done to assist the cadets' mental health from being so isolated?
There's many different things that we are doing. Just a couple of them. We do work with an organization out of Selma that does our alcohol counseling, et cetera, but they also do mental health. They'll be here on campus in force and working with cadets. But additionally, and more importantly, understanding that we're locking down cadets is that we are not just locking them down and walking away. We are developing a very robust schedule of events and activities especially for the weekends, to allow the cadets to have activities here on campus that are safe, COVID safe, et cetera, and keeps them active and entertained. We understand that, and that is a big focus of our current planning effort right now. We're soliciting ideas both from the cadet chain of command as well as from our staff and faculty, and putting that plan together right now.
What are the classes for the SAP students?
What are the classes?
Yes, sir.
Well, the classes for SAP students, I'll ask Dean Ivy to come up, but again, they're dependent upon which academy they're going to. So Dean Ivy will talk about that.
Also, Dean Ivy, will SAP classes be hybrid or online?
As far as the SAP classes, they're prescribed by the specific academy. So it depends on the academy that you're prepping for, which courses you'll be attending or be enrolled in. For the most part, all SAP students take English, they take math. Depending on the academy, they may take one or two sciences. They'll also take SAP PT, and they'll also take a military science course, and which is basically the brunt of the class load. The only difference from science amount, if you're a West Point prep student, you'll be put in a history course instead of the extra science. The other part of the question was,
SAP, will it be hybrid or online?
yeah, all the classes will be hybrid in some aspect. So there'll be a combination of face-to-face as well as an online component. Some courses might be a little heavier on face-to-face. Some courses may be a little heavier on online. It just depends on the instructor and the content of the course.
Dean Ivy, where should I go to find our schedules?
You will receive your schedules when you report to campus. That will be part of the process. You'll meet with your advisors. You'll get your schedules. You'll also get your books next week during that time. If your schedule is not accurate, if it needs to be adjusted, and I'm talking about the non-SAP students, then those can be adjusted the week of drop and add.
Okay, sir. How long will it be before test results are known?
Question was, how long will it be before test results are known? That really depends upon the test and lab, but normally it's anywhere between 48 and 72 hours after the test is conducted.
Would you send a student home to California or allow them to quarantine on campus?
We'll work with every cadet, and given their certain circumstances and their transportation requirements, and of course, what their physical state of health is before we determine whether they'll go home or not. Of course, we feel that it's probably be best for a cadet to recuperate at home in the care of their family, et cetera, than be in a room here on campus that's isolated from the rest of campus.
Can cadets bring their own hand sanitizer or will it be contraband?
Can the cadets bring their own hand sanitizer or will it be contraband? No, by all means, we really encourage you to have your cadets bring a lot of their own personal sanitation and hygiene items with them. We will be providing that here too, but it's always good for the cadets to have that in their room or something they wear or keep on their person during the day. So highly encourage them to bring their own as well.
Will we be getting haircuts when we move in or do we need to get a haircut before arrival?
All right, that's your option. Your option is if you want to get a hair before arrival, by all means. It needs to be a recruit haircut, which means number one all around. Okay, number one all around. If you come with longer hair than that, obviously we will get you into the barber and have your hair cut. It may not be your first day on campus. Again, we have to follow strict protocols through the barber, but we're going to have 2 of them here on site. And so within the first day or 2, I'm sure you will have your hair cut appropriately.
Cadets can bring their own mask, correct?
Cadets can bring their own face mask. Now, they need to be a solid color, no writing, no logos, etc. Black, brown, green, something that matches this type of uniform right here. They cannot be bandanas that you just tie around your head. They have to be in accordance with CDC guidance as far as the type of material, which is normally a fairly tightly woven cotton material, 1 or 2 layers thick, etc. So it has to be washable and reusable. You cannot bring disposable masks, etc. Okay, so no bandanas, no disposable masks. If the mask you bring, like the example I showed you, has those vents, we need to be able to disable those vents so that you're not just blowing air out of the face.
Upon arrival at campus, will we be allowed to go to the dorm with the cadet?
No, again, parents, we're asking not to go into the barracks. You can, of course, you'll drive your car over outside the barracks. You can help unload. You can help them in that aspect of it, but we want you to stay out of the barracks simply because we have a lot of cadets already on campus that have been isolated, that have been tested, and we really don't want to mix up these populations. So we ask you to understand that and collaborate with us in this effort to maintain the health of our Corps of Cadets.
Our cadet has a MMI approved, pre-planned, and pre-scheduled out-of-state medical procedure. Will this cadet have to miss 2 weeks of on-campus learning experience?
Your cadet will work with our nurse on the requirements to return to campus. There's a possibility, depending upon what the circumstances are, that we could have that cadet have a test in order to approve them to come back to campus.
Will our cadet be with the same roommate he has been with during Tiger Camp to limit potential exposure?
That is not necessarily going to be the case because of our balancing requirements on our rooms. We will try to keep those together as possible. If they request roommates, we also try to honor that. But I cannot say in every case that those roommates will remain roommates uh, once we get up to this Friday and they move into their permanent rooms.
Sir, could you go over the procedures again for cadets going to the bookstore to purchase textbooks and classroom items?
During our intensive training cycle, we build in time for all of our cadets to cycle through to get their uniforms as well as their books, etc. And so in this plan, we plan in those mitigation factors about how many we can put in a bookstore or in the uniform department at any one time and the amount of time that takes, etc. So they will be given times during our intensive training cycle to go down there and pick up their books as well as their uniforms and all other issue type items.
Will the Tiger's Den be open for purchases on reporting day?
We plan to have the bookstore open on reporting day. However, because of this new software systems that we're importing right now, if the staff is required elsewhere in order to do the processing we don't have staff to man the bookstore, we may have to close it. However, the QM, or student lounge, will be open for your use. That's a full service grill. It does have, and it will be set up for social distancing to meet all the requirements. It will have indoor seating as well as we have outdoor seating outside the QM. So again, grill food and Starbucks coffee if you wish to avail yourself of that.
Do the students sleep in masks with roommates?
No, our policy is that within the room, the cadets will be able to take their masks off within their rooms. However, anytime they're outside the room, they will need to have their masks on.
Do students ever wear civilian clothing on campus?
No, well, in a normal semester, no. A normal semester, the only time students go into civilian clothing is when they're going out on leave or pass on the weekend or if they have their pass night. And then there are certain requirements for what type of civilian clothing they can wear. That will hold true this semester as well. Again, we're not sure when they will be able to leave camp.
When will the system be updated so that outstanding school fees / room and board fees can be paid?
All right, that's we don't have the appropriate person to answer that question here. We'll note it down and we'll make sure that that's added to the frequently asked questions page on the website for you.
Could the cadets use a book rental option versus purchasing textbooks?
Dean Ivy will address that real quick.
As far as book rentals, most of the texts that we have today are online editions. There are a few texts that are not. But you do have that option outside the school bookstore for rental options. And that would be a question that we'll get back and answer for sure if we have that option on campus. But a lot of our texts now are online or downloadable textbooks. So they're usually for purchase.
Dean Ivy, what percentage of instructors are doing only virtual instruction?
As far as the number exactly, that's still being updated. I'm still getting some information in from instructors that have decided to do that, but right now it's only about 15% probably of the instructors that are going to be working from home.
We noticed that sheets are on the packing list, but not blankets. Will these be provided, or should we bring these as well?
The reason we don't have blankets on there is because that's an issue item for all cadets. That's part of your uniform fee, and they're all MMI cadet blankets. That will be provided upon your move-in.
How will routine medications be handled?
All right, your cadet needs to bring all routine medications with them. They need to be able to administer it themselves. When you come in and you stop at the second stop, which will be the cadet health clinic, that's something that you'll indicate to the nurse there to make sure that we have all routine medications noted in your cadet's medical record and that they have the appropriate prescription and that get refills. The nurse will also talk to you if you need refills during the time that your cadet is here on campus, how to do that. Either one, you get them and you send them, or two, if they want to get them from here from town, we'll get you in contact with the local pharmacy that also delivers to campus.
What are the hair standards for female cadets?
All right, you know, that's sometimes an interpretation thing. I'd hate to try to describe it here, but what I'd advise you to do is go on to our website, go up to the cadet link. On the cadet link, you go down to Cadet Manual. Within the Cadet Manual, look at the table of contents that talks about grooming standards, and you can get the standards there. There's also a sublink that's specifically about grooming standards that goes into more detail. So for our females out there who are not getting the #1 buzz cut, I'd advise you to go look at the Cadet Manual online under the Cadet tab, and then also the specific little SOP that's under there for grooming standards. It'll give you all the information you need. But bottom line, for those who are associated with the military, we hold by the same military standards for grooming.
If a cadet needs to be hospitalized, where will the cadet be taken?
If a cadet needs to be hospitalized, where will they be taken? It all depends on what the issue is. For immediate care, emergency care, we have 2 county hospitals that are within fairly short range of us here. They can be taken to either of those 2 ERs or down to a regional medical center in Selma. For more significant cases, again, depending upon what the medical need is, they can either be taken to ECH Hospital in Tuscaloosa or even up to Birmingham.
What else is not listed on the packing list can we bring with us? Can we bring snacks and protein bars?
What else on the packing list that's not mentioned on the packing list can you bring with you? Can you bring snacks and protein bars? Absolutely, you can bring snacks and protein bars. We ask you not to bring food. Food items that can spoil, food items that can attract insects, etc. we don't want in the rooms. One thing that I would say do not bring, I think it's out there, is do not bring refrigerators, do not bring TV sets in here. Only select cadets, because of the size of our rooms, etc. here, only select cadets are permitted to have refrigerators. If your child has a medical need, that need needs to be stated within from a medical professional and transmitted to our nurse up front here so she can approve it, validate it, and then that will give you permission for your cadet to have a refrigerator in their room. But short of a medical need or that they're occupying a specific leadership position that warrants it, no refrigerators in the room. Now, each barracks has refrigerators in their day room, so there are facilities in the barracks. Each barracks has microwaves in the day rooms, etc. So there are those facilities here. You don't need to bring those things, and the rooms aren't big enough, and we don't want to add that electrical load into these barracks either. So they go to their banner account online. So the question back before, how can you pay for your student fees, etc. I'm being told right now, if you go into your banner account online, you should be able to do that in that application.
Sir, could you just restate about the blankets?
Okay, sorry, blankets. The question originally was linens are on your packing list, but blankets are not. Should they bring their own blanket? The answer is no. They don't need to bring their own blanket. They will be issued an MMI cadet blanket when they're here. That's part of their uniform cost. So they don't need to bring a blanket with them. Some people bring a blanket because it's their favorite, but for inspection purposes, they will be using the MMI cadet blanket.
When will ECP take the APFT and are parents allowed to watch?
Okay, we don't have an RTC representative here, so I really can't tell you when. We will put that out on the website as well. I'll ask our RTC PMS to put that out on their social media, along with the question, can parents watch? But we can't answer that right now.
Would surge protectors be beneficial for rooms?
Yes, obviously surge protectors, there's a couple outlets in the rooms. If you feel that you're going to have more electronic devices, bring the surge protectors with you, or if you're using your computer in there, of course, that gives your added redundancy to protecting your electronic equipment. However, we do inspect rooms for fire code, and if circuits are overloaded with too many electrical devices, of course, we'll have to correct that.
How should cadets be dressed for move-in day?
Cadets can be dressed however they want for moving day, just be casual. They'll be, once they get through our process, so again, they'll be tested for COVID testing. They'll go in, check in with our cadet health clinic. We'll do the little medical survey there for everybody to include guests. Then they'll go and receive their room assignments. From the room assignments within the Ireland Center, they'll go and pick up an initial issue of uniform items, which includes our PT uniform with a Foxtrot Company t-shirt. The Foxtrot Company does not exist in our normal structure. It is for our intensive training cycle. So all cadets who are new going through our intensive training cycle will all wear this Foxtrot t-shirt. Once they move into their rooms, they'll be instructed to put that PT uniform on, black shorts, white socks, their athletic shoes, and their Foxtrot t-shirt, upon which time when they fall out on the chapel, in front of the chapel here for their noontime formation to go to lunch, they will all be in that uniform.
Can cadets bring their own vehicle on move-in day? Move-in day, sir. Bring their vehicles.
Question, can cadets bring their own vehicles on moving day? Absolutely. There is no restriction for cadets to have vehicles on campus. In your in-processing forms that are on that site that I showed you, there is an optional vehicle application. So you fill out that application, it's online, just fill it out online, hit send, we receive that. When the cadet brings the vehicle on, or parent, when the vehicle gets on campus, we'll make sure that it gets put down, or we'll instruct the cadet to put it down in our cadet parking lot. And then your bill will be charged for the parking fee. And then our transportation manager will be going around and applying the parking decals to the cars that have registered. So if we find cars, however, that are not registered, we'll find that cadet to get them to register it. But yes, you can bring your car to campus. Just please fill out that form, that application for parking online, and you'll be set to go when you arrive here.
Can we bring extra storage totes and things like that?
I get asked a lot by parents about what extra they can bring off the packing list, and my usual and still my response normally is try not to bring much more than what's on the packing list. Rooms aren't necessarily that big. You don't know what your cadet's roommate might be bringing in, and we don't have a lot of extra storage space in the barracks. So what they bring in, they have to find space for in their room, and sometimes that gets difficult. So just be judicious about what more you bring. If you bring in storage tubs, remember that pretty much we try to get them to go underneath the bed or in a closet. And so it needs to fit into one of those two places. They're going to have, of course, you're supposed to bring with you the foot locker, which goes at the end of your bed. But for anything else that's additional to what we have on our list, they'll have to find room in their quarters to store that.
For new cadets, what have you noticed are common contraband items, and can a cadet bring common over-the-counter medicines?
Okay, what are common contraband items, and can they bring over-the-counter medicines? Over-the-counter medicines, no problem. Again, as long as they're over-the-counter. However, if we would want them to be, to inform our nurse and have it on their file what over-the-counter medications they may be using, because we do run a drug screenings here, and if it's something that could potentially cause a positive in a drug test, we'd like to know that on the record, because if it's not, that leads to other issues. As far as any other contraband, as I mentioned, my biggest issue usually is people bringing, our cadets bringing in refrigerators, large screen TVs, or large monitors, etc. All of these items are talked about within the Cadet Manual, as well as on the packing list. Down in the bottom of the packing list, there's some of those common contraband items that come in. Also, perishable food items, we don't want them in the barracks either.
Can cadets receive and send mail throughout the year?
Yes, when your cadet gets here, when they pick up their room assignment, they'll also be given their mailbox number, and that will be their address. So what we ask the parents to do when they're there with them is to take out your phone and take a picture of their little name card with all that information on it, and so that you have it saved, and that's the address you will send mail to them. You can send packages, etc. They have boxes that they can get at for most of the day, not 24/7, but for most of the day, they can get into regular mailboxes, and then they can also pick up packages from our mail room as well.
If a cadet is already on campus, can the parents come on move-in day to see them for the short morning time frame and bring added items they need?
We are not asking, or we're asking parents not to come. If their cadets are already on campus for the same reasons. These cadets have already been tested, and we'd like to keep that, keep that in place. If they really need something, I'd ask you to mail it to them. I would ask you not to come by campus. All the cadets who are on campus right now also are going to be employed for move-in day to help their fellow cadets, the new cadets who are coming in, get into their rooms, etc. And so they'll be pretty much employed. If there's an emergency, of course, please contact us and let us know what that emergency is, and we'll work with individual cases.
On average, how much money would a cadet need for books?
Okay. The estimate is about $450. I think we go on the financial aid site, it breaks it down as well. If you go into the website and you look at tuition fees and all, it'll give you an estimate for books there. But we believe it's about $450.
To be clear, we are able to put our mask down when doing heavy physical activity, correct?
When you're doing your PT, whether it's on your own or whether it's in a group, if you're doing PT in a group, your group leader will decide when you can put your mask down, when the conditions are correct to do that. When you're doing PT on your own, you got to just remember social distancing. So if you're going to be out, we have a brand new, newly completed running trail through campus now, and we're encouraging our cadets to go out there. So you're going out there to run around our new 2-mile trail on your own. And of course, if you're either by yourself or you're with a couple of your friends, you can lower your mask while you're running as long as you keep well over 6 feet between you. And we say well over because, of course, if you're working out hard and you're expelling a lot of air, that 6-foot distance safe zone has to be increased. And so these are the types of things we'll be talking to our cadets about when they get here and get them inculcated in what the requirements are and how they can adjust to whatever situation they find themselves in. But when you're in an organized setting, whoever's in charge of that group in an organized setting, whether it's a coach or whether it's one of our PT instructors, they will determine when the mask can come down. And normally that's when you're running around, not when you're necessarily doing just calisthenics. Okay, we just looked up on the website, an average $800 for books per semester. But of course, that varies by what your course load is.
Can books be added to your payment plan instead of having to bring the money with you?
Okay, we'll have to answer that question. The question was, can your books go on your payment plan, or do you have to purchase them up front? We'll put that down, note that question down, and get that answer put out on the website.
Sure. I registered for courses on July 17th, which was before MMI transitioned into the new program. Will I have to resend my registration with my new student ID?
As far as registration for your classes, if you registered for your classes before we transitioned to the new program, those courses were put into the new program. So you won't have to register for those classes again, but those, you can meet with your advisor upon arrival next week. And if that schedule needs to be adjusted, that can be done during drop ad.
Can cadets wear civilian clothes on weekends, being that they cannot leave campus?
Generally speaking, no. Anytime cadets are on campus, they have to be in some form of uniform, whether that's a PT uniform or whether that's a different type of uniform that we have for specific activities. However, that being said, we are looking for morale building activities, and there is very potentially a case, should the cadets want to, have something that's a bit more informal, and we will consider that along with the rest of the ideas that we get for our morale boosting activities for the weekend.
Will cadets be allowed to attend church, and/or will services be offered on campus?
All right, the answer is yes and no, at least not at first. So The answer is we do offer well, the Catholic Mass is always offered here on campus, and we have a space to be able to do that. Currently in town, most of the churches have virtual services, and so we will have a list of those services that are available virtually for all of our cadets. Again, right now in the local community, we are having a little bit of an issue, so at least for the first couple weeks, we probably will not allow cadets off campus, but we will encourage them to attend virtually any one of their faith group that they wish to. Catholic Mass will be held on campus as we normally do during the year.
Sir, could you just retouch on appropriate attire for move-in day and the prescription meds that the cadets will bring with them?
Okay, the question is, what's the appropriate attire for move-in day and talking about prescription medication? Again, just come comfortable to campus. Shorts, whatever, flip-flops, whatever you feel comfortable in. You're not being graded at that. And what my comment was once you get through the process and you get into your room, you will be instructed to get into Mmi uniform, which is a PT uniform that you will use for your intensive training cycle. The prescription medication, when you come in there, your second stop along the way will be with our cadet health clinic. That's when you need to identify, if you have not already sent it through your Magnus Health portal, identify any prescription medications that the cadet is on, and that the frequency that they have to have it, when the prescription needs to be renewed, and how you plan to renew it. If you are planning to renew it from your home and sending it, that's fine. If you want it to be renewed here in town, you can get that information from our health clinic either beforehand, call into Ms. Sumlin, or when you get here, you'll be given instructions on how to register that with our local pharmacy that does deliver to campus.
Sir, non-prescription over-the-counter, do they have to be reported to the nurse?
Yes, for non-prescription over-the-counter medications, it's highly advisable that you list that down in your health record with the nurse. One reason and main reason for me is that if we do a drug screening and we have a cadet that comes up positive on that drug screening, and there is a possibility that they took something over the counter that could have caused that, if it's in their record, that helps. If it's not in that record, that makes it a little bit more difficult.
What is the average uniform fee that we will be paying day one? Be paying on day one, sir, on move-in day.
They pay the fee moving. Right now, with the transition to the new banner system, normally in a normal year, you are supposed to have your account paid up when you get here to campus. However, with the transition to banner, our business office understands that there's a little bit more difficulty in doing this in this transition, and so they are asking that the bills do not have to be paid up in full until classes start. So that's the 17th of August. And that's the target on the wall to have all your fees, et cetera, covered before your cadet starts class.
Will cadets be coming back to the same room and same roommate before break? Or after break?
Okay. I believe the question is basically, will the cadet have their same roommate when they come back in the spring? That really all depends on the cadet. Normally, yes. Normally, the cadets stay in the same room. They stay with the same roommate. However, we do get requests that for change of rooms, change of roommates, and that's a possibility too. So it's really at the option of the cadet if they want to stay with their roommate in their same room, or if they want to move. If they want to move, they file that request with their TAC officer, and then we look at the availability of rooms, et cetera, in wherever it is they want to go, whatever barracks company they want to go to. But we accommodate that as it comes up. But if they don't want to change, they don't need to say anything. They leave over the Christmas break, they can leave their stuff in their room and they come back to the same room.
Do you have an estimated date for spring semester?
We do not, estimated date for spring semester, we do not have it yet. We are contemplating a couple of options as far as a start date in the spring, some of which depends upon local conditions. So we'll have to probably about, what do you think, about mid-semester? You know what I mean? We'll find out. Okay, probably about mid-semester, we'll be getting out the word about a start date in January. Normally, we start fairly early in January, but one option we're considering, and again, this has not been decided yet, is to perhaps delay the spring start, maybe a week or so to about mid-January. But again, no decision's been made. As soon as it is made, we will publish that out for everybody to see.
Sir, could you repeat the average cost for the books for the semester?
Okay, $800 is the average or estimated cost for books. Again, that can vary widely depending upon the course load and type of courses that the cadets are taking.
When will the cadets learn which company they will be placed in?
Cadets will learn which company they'll be placed in when they arrive here on campus. When they receive their room assignment at the Commandant's table, which will be the third stop on your in processing. What happens mostly in the beginning of the semester, especially fall semester, and we have incredibly a very good incoming class, fairly healthy incoming class. So normally what happens is we'll get everybody into their barracks, and then there'll be some moving around from there, depending upon if we have cadets or cadets that we thought were coming to campus. Maybe we had a returner who didn't return, or maybe we had a recruit who at the nth hour decided they didn't want to come. That opens up a space. We'll start to level that out amongst the barracks so that we don't have one barracks that just is full and then another barracks is not so full. And then in that process, we'll be giving the cadets as much latitude as possible to, if they want to go to another company and there's room in that company, then we'll honor that request.
Is there a parents' Facebook page?
Is there a parents' Facebook page? Parents themselves, no. There is a parents' platoon page out there, which is under the auspices of our Vice President for Advancement. So a parents' platoon. So when you come here, your fourth stop on your in-processing will be our advancement table, and they will talk to you about parents' platoon. However, on our website, if you go to our website, up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a tab for parents and family. That is the tab where we put information for parents and family. It's not social media. It's basic information. We provide in there a parent manual, if you will, that talks to you about how we run cadet affairs here. It mirrors a lot the Cadet Manual, just explain to you how we do certain things so you understand what your cadet's talking to you about. And we also put up there information for you about when the breaks are, et cetera, so you can do your travel planning and those types of things. So please look at that. We are working on it right now to update it, but look on it. It has a lot of good information on there. And again, like I said, you have the Parents Platoon on the Facebook, just right in there, Mmi Parents Platoon.
On the vehicle registration form, it asks which company they are in. So what should we put prior to coming?
Right, if you do not have a company assigned yet for purposes of your vehicle registration, just leave that blank, and then we will follow up and add that in later. Mostly that's for our returning students.
Will there be a parents' weekend?
Unfortunately, this fall, we are not conducting any public events on campus, so there will be no Parents' Weekend this fall. For our parades, however, we are going to try to the best of our ability to conduct ceremonies here on campus with the cadets, and we will broadcast that virtually to you. So no public events on campus, but we will try to do as much virtually with you as possible.
Will those playing athletics be allowed to have extra short and pants if they keep them in an extra bag placed under their bunks or closet?
Will athletes be allowed to have extra short pants? Absolutely. Well, Dr. Ivy, you want to comment on that at all? I mean, what they might need to bring, athletes need to bring that might be extra for practice purposes and all? Okay. Dr. Ivy here, our athletic director, says that the athletes should not need to bring anything for practice or anything, that they will be provided that by their teams. But I do encourage our cadets, if you're going to be outside doing athletics. However, again, being on campus, they're supposed to be in a uniform at all times. And so we have uniform athletic attire, which if they're doing athletics or exercises on campus, they need to be wearing that and not civilian clothes.
Must a cadet leave campus to head home after finals on the 24th, or can a cadet leave the morning of the 25th?
Now, the question was, does a cadet need to leave if they finish their finals on the 24th, and do they have to leave on the 24th, or can they stay over till the 25th? We work with cadets in different situations. We have cadets who come from all over the country, and in fact, many, especially with parents who are deployed overseas or stationed overseas, they have to go overseas. And so we'll work with you within reason for your specific travel accommodations. So that should not be a problem if you need to stay an extra day or so in order to be able to catch a flight out of here.
For current serving military members, do we bring in our gear, OCPs, PTs, etc.?
For current serving military members, do you bring in your own gear? I'm assuming that you're talking about guardsmen and reservists who drill. If that's the case, yes, if you are a drilling guardsman or reservist, you will bring your gear with you, and then you will, of course, be allowed to go off for your drills and then return. So you will need to bring whatever gear you need to conduct your drills. I hope I answered that question.
For SAP cadets who have already been given classes, would we be able to buy books beforehand the day we move in?
No, all cadets will be during our intensive training cycle, during the first few days, the balance of that week that they're here. So SAP cadets will be coming in on Wednesday. For the balance of that week, that weekend, we will be cycling all of our other cadets through the bookstore to pick up all their books, etc. And so that will be accomplished at that time. Again, we're transitioning to a new system here with books, etc. So it's not quite as smooth as we would like it to be, or something that you could do before you come. But also, like Dean Ivy mentioned, not all schedules are solid yet, and so we'd rather not you buy books beforehand and then maybe have to then exchange them and turn them in.
If you're planning on joining band, can you bring your instrument with you?
If you're planning on joining band, can you bring your instrument with you? I highly encourage anybody who wants to participate with our musical department to do so, to bring your instruments. If they're a relative size, you want to keep them in your room. If they're larger, I'm sure Dr. Alwood would probably find place in this band hall. So Dr. Elwood, our music director, can store your instruments in the band hall. So I highly encourage that. Some cadets were wondering about band company. Up until this year, we have had a band company, which is a separate company, and all bandsmen are part of that company. Last year, we tried a hybrid approach, and we had sort of a cadre for band company, but allowed any cadet in any company to participate, and that was highly successful. And this year, because of the way we had to reconfigure the barracks to handle a quarantine area, we had to disestablish a barracks area for band company, although they will still have a leadership component. But all cadets in any company can participate in band or chorus, which Dr. Elwood is going to be running as well this semester. And so please bring your instruments and seek him out. I believe there's also one of those buttons on the admitted students page for in-processing requirements is a interest form for band.
Will cadets have their cell phones and will be allowed to use them?
Yes, cadets, obviously, first of all, they're going to be doing their daily health summary on their cell phone. So yes, they can. And last year we loosened up the rules on cell phone usage around campus, and to allow them to have their phones with them at all times. And in certain circumstances, they can see them, but they have to do certain things to be safe about it. However, in classrooms and in other functions that we have, phones will not be permitted, or we'll ask them to turn them off, etc. So they won't necessarily be able to attend to them. If you call them during the day and they can't answer you, please understand they might be in class, they might be in a function, etc., where they cannot access their phone right away. Please text them and ask them to call you at their first convenience.
Cadets that are already at Tiger Camp, when will they get their mailbox information?
Cadets who are already at Tiger Camp will get their mailbox information on Well, actually, I'm thinking they're probably going to get their mailbox information on this Friday, the 7th, when they move to their permanent room. Because when they do that, we will provide them with that lanyard with their name and their room assignment, as well as their PO box number.
Our cadet will be bringing his car after ITC. When should we be getting the parking pass?
Fill out the parking pass now and have it in place. It doesn't change anything. You fill it out now or you fill it when you come, except if you fill it out now, then it's done and you don't have to worry about it. And then his car, once it gets here, he'll notify our transportation department, and the transportation manager will go out there and put his decal on the car. Mmi Parents Association, otherwise known as Parents Platoon. Okay, the clarification was from our advancement office, they're watching, there is an MMI Parents Facebook page. All right, so as I mentioned, go out there, MMI Parents, and it was Parents Association, otherwise known as the Parents Platoon. Okay, and if you want to join the Parents Platoon again, they will be your fourth stop on your processing.
After finals, will transportation be provided to a nearby airport for outgoing cadets?
Yes, again, when you look at our website and you look up at the Parents and Families tab, open that up, that is where we will be putting in. It should already, and I know it's been up there, the schedule for the shuttle. That shuttle is for the shuttle for people coming in here for moving days, for those who need it, as well as it is already planned out, the shuttle for taking students from campus back to the airport upon conclusion of finals. Now, if there's not a shuttle time that concurs with what your plans are, you can always coordinate with our transportation department for a private transportation, basically. It's a bit more expensive, but we can do it if we have the means to do it with the transportation assets we have on campus.
For books, will there be a website so parents can pay for them via credit card, or will a cadet need a credit card on site in order to pay? Oh, the FAQs? Okay. All right, I'm being told that if you go to the banner button on the landing page of the website, the very first page of the website, down the lower left where you see the My MMI big button, press on that, go down to the link that takes you to the banner site, and then you'll have a big red letter link that is frequently asked questions, FAQs. Click on that, and you should find the information there that you're looking for. Since there's no public events this year, will there be no Marion Made Challenge, or will it only be open to cadets?
All right, since there's no public events on campus, the question was this year, will the Marion Made Challenge be held? And if so, will it only be cadets? Well, first of all I'm saying is there won't be any public events this fall, not this year. We're still open to having events in the spring, given the proper conditions. I'm hoping that we're going to get back to more normal operations by then. However, hope is not a course of action, so we'll have to see how it goes. Now, the Marion Made Challenge is our obstacle course race that it's actually an international qualifier. We're very proud of it. We hold it in the first weekend of March every year, and we bring in people from all over the country to run in this thing, and it raises a lot of money for our cadet clubs. It's too early to tell if we'll be able to run it or not. Right now, we're planning as if we will run it, and then we'll make the call as we get closer to the date if the conditions permit. The second part of the question was, if we can't open it to the public, will cadets be able to run it? And I would suggest more than likely, yes. Cadets can run our obstacle course now, and within the proper conditions, we can do that now. But the issue with the Marion Made Challenge is we'd have to be bringing in a large number of people from outside, even the country, into tiny Marion here, and we just have to see if conditions warrant that.
Can cadets bring personal printers and foot lockers? Printers and foot lockers.
Okay, can cadets bring personal printers and foot lockers? The answer is yes. The specifications for the foot locker that we want for you in your room is in the packing list. And there's a couple of links to examples, I believe, from Walmart. If you want to bring additional foot lockers, by all means, you can do so. You can bring the same type. If you bring a different type, of course, that will have to be able to go into a closet area. And then the other part of the question was, can they bring their own printers? Absolutely, you can. Again, space is a premium, but having your own printer is very nice. And so by all means, if they can bring their own printer in there, I would highly recommend.
With the unknown spring semester, when students leave for Thanksgiving, should they pack up their entire room to bring home? Thinking
The question
about
is, when cadets leave for the Thanksgiving break, should they pack up their entire room and go home? Again, no. If the cadet is planning to return in the spring, which we hope everybody is, unless they're graduating this fall in an off year or off semester, then no, they leave all their gear, all their stuff, they leave it in their room, and then they come back to that same room when they come back in the spring. So know that you do not have to pack it all up for the winter break. They will have to pack it all up when they leave for the summer break after the spring semester.
for returning cadets on move-in day, are parents still required to leave at noon?
For returning cadets, okay, I'm glad that question. So the question was, for returning cadets, if your parents are bringing you to campus, do they have to leave at noon? No, because actually returning cadets have a wider margin to come in here, and they're not going to be marched off to lunch. However, what I'd ask the parents to do is, if you want to visit with your cadet, please do so here in the local community, et cetera, or spend some time in the QM and make a date, time certain when you'll depart. We do want all parents off of campus, so we can continue on with our cadet activities. I'm not going to say that returning parents have to leave by noon. That's because we have to get the ITC recruits started, but returning cadets is a little bit different. But again, I would highly recommend that parents do not stay here after hours. We will not be open after hours. Parents should not be on campus after, say, 5 o'clock in the evening. And again, just like with the recruits coming in Monday through Wednesday, returning parents also should not go into the barracks.
My cadet takes OTC daily supplements. Does that need to be reported?
OTC. Again, any OTC, anything that your cadet is taking consistently should be reported to the health clinic, to the nurse. So that's part of their record. If there's any issues later on, and we know that they're taking certain supplements, it can help us out with whatever that might be. And I mentioned before drug testing, sometimes these supplements will cause positive drug tests, and we don't want to go through that if at all possible. So that is highly recommended that you register all of that with the clinic. Dr. Ivy, is there anything from the athletic part that you want to add to that? Yeah, Dr. Ivy includes in there any supplements, pre-workout type things that you might be working also need to be listed with the nurse in your medical record.
Will the incoming SAP cadets have a similar shakedown like the ROTC cadets checking in?
Okay, I think people saw the video of ROTC camp start, and we had drill sergeants. Well, we didn't. The ROTC had their drill sergeants out here doing what drill sergeants do, right? And getting into their shakedown, finding contraband, etc. I want to assure everybody out there that's not MMI style, and that's not what we do here. That was done because for ROTC, of course, that camp, the camp that they're currently in right now, is substituting for the camp that they normally would have held up at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And so they had the extra cadre in here to make it as much like Fort Knox as they possibly could. We will not be doing that. When you come in, nobody's going to be going through your stuff like that, etc. So no worries about that.
How early on Wednesday can SAP cadets arrive?
Early on Wednesday, that's arrived. I think I'll have to check the website again. I think we said 8 o'clock, but please check the website. It has the hours down there. Please don't arrive before that hour that's listed on there as starting, because we probably won't be able to assist you.
How would drilling work when school starts, especially for cadets whose units are out of state?
Okay, the question is, how will drills work for cadets who have to drill, especially if they're out of state? Okay, for all, again, drilling guardsmen and reservists, you'll need to bring a memo from your unit that lays out your drill schedule for the semester, at least for the period up until Thanksgiving. We have that, you give that to your TAC officer in your company. Your TAC officer then will permit you to leave on those days, and it will be authorized, obviously, and we will know what you're doing and where you're going and when you're supposed to be back. So you do need a memo from your unit that you bring with you, or have them send it to you while you're here, that you provide to your TAC officer, and that will cover that. Even if you're out of state, doesn't matter. You'll work out with your TAC officer the amount of time you need to transit to your drill location, how much time you need for your drill, and then your return. So please follow that. Where we get into problems is when you don't have documentation about when your drill dates are, and then that's a little bit more of a difficult issue. Okay.
So there's numerous questions. Could you just reiterate where to look and locate the grooming standards for the
Sure.
cadet manual?
Hey, AJ, can you help bring up the website again? Okay, I'm on the website. I'm going to go to the main page just to be sort of clear. Okay, so I'm going up to the upper right and I see a button marked Cadets. I click on that. On the cadet page, I scroll down and you'll see a bunch of different buttons here. Second row, left-hand side, is a button called Cadet Manual. Click on that. Cadet Manual. You roll down to the bottom of this screen and you'll see up here, although it still says 19 to 20, we're updating the manual, but there's not really significant changes. But you can read through this manual. Just click on this, it will open that manual up. The second page, which is a second document, which is a little bit more descriptive, the very first link underneath it that says appearance and grooming standards. Click on that, and you'll come up with this document right here. Scroll down through this document, and you will see a lot of information here about earrings, etc., haircuts,
Hair
what's
color.
permitted, what's not permitted. I think you're getting the picture here. Okay? So ladies, do not bring a lot of fancy earrings with you that you plan to wear with your uniform. You can only wear studs, etc. It's well explained in here. Men, don't try to get that eraser head cut that, you know, you're short on the sides and you got 3 inches sticking straight up that you think will be under your hat all the time. That doesn't work either. Recruit haircut is a number. This is for cadets generally. A recruit haircut, if you go into the barber and say, I need a recruit haircut, and he asks you, what is that? And you say, that's a number 1 all the way around. He'll understand what, he or she will understand what you're saying. They will give you an appropriate haircut. And if you want to get it for free, you'll get it here. If you don't get it correctly and you come here, you'll get another free one when you're here. So that's not a problem.
Dean Ivy, could you restate the dates of the finals, please?
The final exams will be over 3 days. The first will be on Saturday, November the 21st. The second dates of exams will be Monday, the 23rd, and the third and final day exams, which will end by noon, will be on the 24th of November. Those exact exam periods will be posted on the website probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so that by that time your cadet will have their schedule and you may be able to coordinate leave time. But the cadets are required, if they have exams, to be here through noon on that 24th.
What is the average cost for uniforms, and are socks issued to cadets on their first day, or will they be able to purchase them upon arrival?
Again, for the costing information, I would ask you to go to our website and look under the fees tab, fees and tuition tab, and that will have the breakdown for the uniform costs and also for the uniform items that we are issuing. Okay. And then you have the list on there that shows you what you are to bring with you, which I believe includes athletic socks. Now the PT gear, we will be issuing that the first day because that's pretty much what they will be wearing for the first couple days until we start getting them into the issue for their regular uniforms. So again, what they need to bring with them are basically what's stated in that. For instance, their shoes, their running shoes, athletic shoes, their socks, of course, their undergarments, etc. The rest of the uniform that they will be wearing will be provided to them. Okay, and so I think that that's pretty straightforward.
Are we allowed to wear religious medallions or necklaces under our uniforms?
Question was, are we allowed to wear religious medallions and necklaces under our uniform? Again, we follow the protocol of the military, U.S. military, and yes, absolutely, if you have any type of religious medallions, necklaces, etc., that you wish to wear, wearing it underneath your uniform or your t-shirt that you have on is appropriate.
Can the parents' Facebook page be linked to the Marion Mmi Facebook page? It's difficult to find.
Okay, I'll talk to our public information officer about linking the parents' Facebook page to the main MMI Facebook page to make it a little bit easier for parents to navigate. The other thing that we'll do, I can't do it today, but probably by tomorrow, we'll put the link for that also onto our parents and family page on our website.
Will a cadet have the equipment blender to make themselves a post-workout protein drink if they bring their own protein powder? A blender, sir.
All right, the question was, can the cadet bring a blender to make a protein shake for their post-workout? Certainly, but they have to keep it clean and they have to put it away when they're done with it. They cannot be leaving it out for obvious reasons, hygiene reasons, etc. So no, I'm not going to say that they can't have a blender. Where we've had questions about before was questions about, well, my cadet uses protein and so he needs a refrigerator. Just because you take protein is not a medical reason for you to have a refrigerator in your room. We do sell protein drinks down in our QM, but if they want to make it themselves in their barracks, by all means, they can do so as long as they're complying with sanitation requirements. Okay. Well, I appreciate all the questions. We have some due outs for you. And so those due outs will either be adding to our frequently asked question page, or we will be putting some links onto a couple places else to get you guys steered right. All right, we appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week. We're getting really excited about starting this week on campus. I know our cadets are, and we're really hopeful for a very interesting but successful semester for this fall. Thank you very much.